Okay, thanks for the opportunity. Can you hear me on this thing? Am I? Okay. Thanks for the opportunity to talk about my budget a little bit with you. Just go over a few little things. First of all, you all know how difficult it is. Everybody says the same thing, but for us to project what our increases are going to be in our tax collection is difficult. But we have solidly marked increases every single year, and we're on chart to do that substantially this year as well. So I need to adjust my projected income for next year. Right now it's reflecting 5% lower than what we did this year. So I will need to increase that to at least make it the same number as what we had for 2024. As we get closer to the end of the year, we have some weird anomalies happening that are going to keep us from being as accurate as we could be, even with our projections, including the fact that the Small Satellite Conference will be going to Salt Lake City is going to have an enormous impact on at least 1 month of our generated tax revenue. So going through these items, I don't know if you have any specific questions. I've tried to itemize as many things as possible in the different categories so that you're aware of what they are. For example, even in subscriptions and memberships, I've listed all the places that we, belong in our national associations. I've also listed the travel opportunities that I will have. I do have some adjustments that I've already want to request to that. And if you want to look on your, let's see, I guess it's page 3 for you. Under the travel, I just received word 2 weeks ago that the State Office of Tourism, it's the third item, it says Western Canada Sales Mission and Conference. They have canceled that for 2025, so I'm getting rid of that $4,500. And sorry, I skipped over the very first item under subscriptions and memberships. The DMA has reorganized itself, and so they are now charging $12.50 for that membership. These are really small amounts compared to what you're probably used to dealing with, but I did have those itemized, so that will be instead of $400, that'll be $12.50. And then
Julie, I'm sorry.
It's the very first item under, subscriptions and memberships. That's Destination Marketing West, West 1 is what that organization stands for. And then on 490, I had just increased this amount by $74,200, which at the time I thought would make it match our previous year, but I'm going to have to increase that number because I'm still not up to my total budget being the same amount as what was 2024. So you'll see, I'll do some calculations on that number and get that back to you too. So those are the things that are of note. You can see all of the things that we do through our office. We have education and training conferences that we attend and just the basics like everyone else. But a couple of different things in our budget, brochures, maps, and printing, because we do a lot of that. And we do also just our advertising and promotions covers a lot of most everything. We do have a line item for the Northern Utah Film Commission. It's always been very small, and I just really inherited the name Northern Utah Film Commission when I came to this position. But I am getting more actively involved with the Utah Film Commission. We're talking more about increasing the video or the library that they have of locations here in Cache Valley that are available for producers and site selectors to check out as far as the possibility of doing more filming here in Cache Valley. So that's kind of something that's a little out of the ordinary on my budget as well. Then our contract services, one thing that you may notice is on 620, we have always paid $8,000 a year to Bear Lake to help them staff the overlook there once that building was built conveniently on their side of the county line. So all I have to do is pay this amount, which is, we should probably be paying more than that, but I'm not going to mention that to them. So that's the $8,000 you'll see there. We do some sponsorships for events. You can see the ones we've done in the past that are listed in that 640. And part of that is to be supportive of the events, but also looking at that with a marketing perspective, saying, you know what, it makes the Visitors Bureau look good to be attached or affiliated with these events. So you can see, and those change, and I also all those go through my Visitors Bureau Advisory Board for their input and their approval. And we do have some small, tiny grants available up to $1,500 in a matching grant, meaning the people spend $3,000 and get $1,500 back. Those are for new events that are brand new off the ground, because since I have 2 full-time people and a part-time person, we don't have the manpower to be able to create new events. But we are able to offer a little bit of money to help organizations that want to do that. Once they've made it past the 3-year mark with their new event, then they would qualify for doing matching funds for out-of-area advertising. This is all designed for us to be able to bring people in to stay in our hotels, because that's where the money comes from that is used for this. And so they can't just advertise in the Herald Journal or whatever. It has to be, we've itemized or delineated which counties are not eligible for their advertising. It's got to be places that are far enough away that people would want to come and stay overnight to attend their event. So those are kind of the main or more interesting or unique things from my department. I have we've done $5,000 in the past for the Cache County Cheese and Dairy Festival, and I thought going forward that we might like to look at, doing $7,500 for that. Then, of course, we do have the bond payment for the event center every year. That's the $260,800. And so that's what we're looking at. Yes, we are self-sustaining, and you would notice on here too, one other unique thing is that we do have the gift shop, which I have better things to do with my time than run a gift shop. But the reason that we have that is because I look at that as marketing. Because anytime anyone goes anywhere wearing a Logan, Utah t-shirt or a hat or a whatever, that's marketing for us. But we have been very successful with that, usually about a 50% profit margin on the gift shop. And so you do see in there like items sold in the taxable sales line item in there. And there's also, a line item for purchasing those goods as well. But I'm proud about that too. It's become really a great resource for locals and for visitors as well. So
I'm very impressed that $42,000. That's not a bad sum.
Yeah, that isn't too bad. We're happy about that. Thank you.
Julie, what's this maybe giant pumpkin and others?
Oh, sorry.
Does that have to do with the pumpkin
They
fest?
have that on Center Street.
Yes.
That has to do with that?
So in the past, we have kind of just had a standing understanding that we don't sponsor, this is different from the grants, that we don't sponsor brand new events because we need to know that they're going to be successful. But I've really felt strongly about the momentum that's happening on Center Street with both the Pumpkin Festival and now Anderson Seed and Garden organized that with our help. They're going to take over the Christmas, the Saturday after Thanksgiving with the parade and the lighting and all that stuff. But I feel comfortable enough with it, and our numbers show that that festival brought over 10,700 people to downtown. So I have that on here as that would be a possibility even as soon as this next year, because I think it's good, and I think it's solid, and I want us to be a supportive player of especially the things downtown.
Okay. Yeah, I went this last, when they had that, and it was busy.
Oh yeah,
Busy.
and I was out because I had my back surgery on July 8th. But for the last year and this year, I've had Laura on my staff, has served in my position as a member of the organization committee, and so we've really worked hard with our own hours, to help with that as well. And I help them with their marketing efforts too, to help get out the word. So we are trying to do everything we can to have a big family. Yeah.
Can you go over postage? I see 10,000, but yet in the past it doesn't seem like that's been spent.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yes, it does make sense. I think I have too much in there usually. We're seeing a shift in people's desire to receive either printed materials or get it online. And so I probably need only like 8,000 or 7,000 in there now. But for example, we're just getting ready to do a mailing of people who have online requested information from us, and that's going to be like a mailing list of 17,000 pieces that will be mailed out, so we pay for postage for all of that. And then the people who contact us directly and request information, I do think that has always been higher than it's needed to be. So if you would like me to cut that down, I can. Yeah.
Do you have an idea of what kind of revenue we were able to attract with the return of the summer citizens?
The revenue is hard. The Chamber of Commerce did send, okay, they sent out a survey, and I saw the survey after it was sent out, and I was a little disappointed because of the way that they worded questions. They didn't really do anything that would help you understand financially the impact, but they said things like, did you get your car washed while you were here? Well, thanks. But was it, how often did you eat in a restaurant? Those kind of things that would really give us a financial indication, I don't. And I don't think that they're gathering that information. I think that the summer citizens would be willing to give it, but we know how big it is. And one of the ways that I'm going to actually look at that, I won't know financially. This new program that I've subscribed to that will allow us to track data from cell phones, I'm going to look at, during those months, I can look at exactly where the people came from, but we can start tracking things like, oh, how many Arizona people were at the farmer's market on every Saturday in the summer, or to this event, or we could even choose a restaurant if we wanted to know that specifically. They are going to present me with an option they haven't had before, which is to then track dollars that people are spending. So if I choose to add on that to our account, we would have a better way of tracking that financial impact.
Okay, kind of a thing?
No, it's kind of crazy and creepy, actually. I have another one called Visa View that I subscribe to, and it will tell me how much money every zip code spends in Logan or Cache Valley on a certain day or in a time frame. So I can start seeing like where those numbers come from, which is kind of creepy. And I don't know how they're tracking the finance part because they haven't presented that to me yet. We just are able to track the data, how many people are where, what their age group is, and we actually do know their income level. So it's a little bit of a brain fryer and scary if you ask me. But.
So, I would love to see that information, because from what I've seen from the state, they just have estimates of how many people are outside the county. It would be good to know who's coming from outside the county and spending dollars.
Well, we could only do that like according to probably a particular event or time frame, because there's no way, I don't think that we could just do a blanket, here's a year who from what counties and what state has spent money here. I don't know how we could narrow that down.
Like, for example, a USU graduation.
Yes,
I did
exactly.
check it out, things like that.
Right, we could absolutely do that and see what people are spending, on that weekend, or the fair, or
We graduate about every week.
is that? Yeah,
Multiple weeks. Thank you.
you're welcome. Any other questions? Please, Carl.
I was gonna mention,
Oh, sorry.
on the pumpkin,
I'm curious about,
oh,
142, pager pay, I want this back.
Okay, so a few years ago, it's common practice in places that sell goods to have a commission basis. And so we determined, and I got permission from the executive, that I could do a 15% of the net, yes, of the net of our profit in the gift shop, and I would split that between the employees just as an incentive to upsell things, just as kind of common practice, like at Hallmark or wherever. And so when you all just decided there was no other pay, this is just one of the things that kind of you didn't realize maybe was part of it, and so it just got cut. And so that's why I said I wanted it back. And I don't know if there's another way that we could go about making that, but in the end, it's like a couple grand compared to my $1.4 million budget, but it is something that makes a difference big to the employees to work toward that.
And it doesn't come out of our general fund.
Nothing that we're talking about comes out of the general fund. It's all paid by tourists, everything on these pages.
Because I would be willing to put that back in. I think that's reasonable. I don't know how everyone else feels, but it's not going to affect our bottom line, and it might affect theirs. It might help to sell more and do a better job.
Incentivize.
promotion.
And I mean, I'm certainly first on the forefront to be selling those items as well in the gift shop, but I choose to give that all to them. I don't take any part of that myself. So just for my employees.
I was just gonna tell you on the pumpkins, you know, you just shipped out 7 semi-loads of those big ones
Oh,
that went to Texas. They had great big, huge, I mean, they charge $35 a head, these people. That
Really?
one weekend will be like 3-point-something million for that
Whoa.
festival that they have there.
And they took our pumpkins?
7 semi-loads left here.
oh my gosh, I had no idea.
And he ships pumpkins across the country. And some of the big ones, people will say, if you'll deliver it to my house, they pay thousands and thousands of dollars
That's amazing. I had no idea.
to outdo the neighbors.
Wow. And then even better, they just pretend that they grew it themselves and really outdo the neighbors.
It's crazy, so. But thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other
Thank you,
questions?
Julie.
You are welcome. And Sandy, we had visited a little bit about the possibility of, well, we might have to have a written policy change if we are to do that for the other pay since, or however you choose that's the best to.
I thought we could just approve
You guys
other
can,
days.
you guys can. But I don't think that it would, you guys can approve like a set dollar amount. And that's kind of the difficulty with commissions. Is we don't know. And so I think we would need to do a code change. I'll need to look at it, but I think we would need to do a code change to kind of exempt that or in some way.
You've got 2 days.
What's that?
You've got 2 days to do it.
Okay, thank you. And thank you for letting me go first.
Thanks, Julie.
Have fun on your tour, Julie.
Airport.
Good afternoon. Hey, Carl. So we'll start with the big thing first. We have an additional manpower request, and I realize it wasn't on the list you initially got, but there's a reason. The FAA, when they came to town and did our Part 139 inspection at the airport, they told us that we did not have sufficient and qualified staff to maintain a 139 certificate. The 139 certificate is what allows Utah State to fly in and out with their sports teams, and so we intend on keeping that. Also, in the Mike Jones report that we got earlier this year, he made the same statement. You don't have sufficient and qualified staff to run this airport. So with the input from those two individuals, I've been working with Human Resources to get a job description, and she's done a market study. And we've just been a little bit behind, but now we have that information. So we will be making that additional manpower request. And I know Carl's a big fan of paying for something before you ask for the money. And that's another reason for the delay is I was waiting for the Airport Board Authority to make the changes to the land lease agreement, and they have done that about 2 weeks ago. They approved the land lease agreement that increases the land lease. Not only are we charging for the size of the hangar, but the entire lot that the hangar sits on, plus the amount has increased, and we feel like that is enough to cover for this manpower request. Also, we are in negotiations with Utah State University, since they're the ones that benefit from the 139, to have them pay for this new manpower request anyway. We are still in negotiations with that.
What will the total be, do you know, like with salary and
Total package is $85,000.
85,000?
Yes, ma'am.
So that's for both employees, Bob, or just the one?
That's in addition to what we have.
Okay,
That would be one full-timer, salary and benefits.
okay.
Then just move down to line 120 there, the part-time employees, going along with the same theme of having sufficient and qualified people. Right now I have 3 interns from Utah State. They're all in the airport management program. They're all seniors, and I have them as part-time employees. And when I hire the full-timer, it will likely be from that pool of people that already work there. And I will need to backfill that position with a new person, likely from Utah State, with the education and qualifications. And so this part-time line, I'm requesting that. I know it says 43 there, but I need that to be closer to 60 in order to get 20 hours a week from each of those people for the year. Let's see. Then as we just go down the line there, travel, we've increased travel. We've cleaned up some things on here. There was a miscellaneous line that we scratched. We just marked that, we just put that 0. This travel, that is going to include myself traveling to conferences, but also the airport board authority members. We're going to pay for them out of that same line, where previously they were paid out of a different line. I think the miscellaneous line. Software packages has gone way down there, of course. Office supplies, we went up $500. We're going to do some painting and some cleaning up of that office down there this year. It looks like it's from the 70s and probably is. So we're going to do some cleaning up and painting and things down there. Building and grounds, we've come up a little bit there just to cover some of the costs that we're incurring down there with supplies that we've needed. The snow removal, of course, you never know what kind of year you're going to have, so we've budgeted for $65,000. Vegetation, spraying, that seems like an appropriate number there, so we kept it the same. Same with mowing. We rent a tractor each year and pull our mower around. Utilities, I'm not sure why that changed so dramatically, yeah. Actually, it's the same as the 2024. So there's no change between this year and next year. Of course, then on line 620, we've scratched that miscellaneous line.
Union Pacific, describe that one.
So on the east side of the airport, there's a railroad, and the airport is required to have a fence, a security fence around the airport, and it has to be a certain distance from the center line of the runway, and that puts us over onto the airport's property. So in order to keep that fence and maintain an airport, we have to pay them a lease. Earlier this year, they requested what most people considered too high. I think it was $65,000 a year. And through negotiations, we've gotten it down to $20,000 a year to have a fence, a security fence on their property. So that's the agreement we have with Union Pacific. And that was a airport board authority negotiation. That's where they settled with help from the county attorney, and that's where they settled. So that's the amount.
Requiring you to have an increase in insurance liability on that property, or are they still going to accept that liability?
I'm unclear on, I don't have an answer for you today.
Usually any kind of, within the railroad property, if you are going to actually use a certain amount of their property, usually they'll require you to actually carry a bond or something.
Carl, do you know?
I don't know. That topic has really never come up.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that we are required to have any kind of.
Apparently they're just kind of, you're basically just paying the lease and they're going to accept the liability in that section of land as something happens.
I'm not going to say yes to that or no to that because I don't know the answer to that. So I do know that that's what they want on a lease amount. So.
I'd be happier just keeping the weeds down.
Yeah, well, I would think so.
Yeah.
But, you know, you shoot for the moon, you know, you got a company president that wants a bigger bonus, and you start looking for ways to generate money, and you know how things go. Yeah,
We shouldn't have asked.
yeah. Hey, if you don't ask, the answer is no, right? Loriana, can you help me with some of the capital improvement?
Hey, can you hit 621 and tie that into 230? Because travel shows up and it's increased in both places.
621, the snow removal?
No?
Oh, six,
Miscellaneous board services travel went from 6 to 8, and up here on travel, we went from 2 to 4.
This one went from 6 to 8, so that's $12,000 for total travel.
That seems high.
which one's high to you?
Well, if
621?
we're seeing travel twice, 230 and 621. 621's just below your Union Pacific.
I just found it. Yeah, that does seem high. I don't know, we have it on both lines there.
Because that's a 25% increase if you take just the 2 raises between the two.
Yeah.
So,
Did you make some notes on that, Loriana? This is my first time doing this, so thanks for your patience.
No. I had a question too about the 625, the Logan Fire standby fees. Went from 5,000 to 8,000 in the budget, but in 2023 actual and 2024 actual, there haven't been any expenses on that. Are you familiar with that?
So, I don't know why it's not showing on there, but there have been actual. So the standby fee is, so when Utah State's going to fly out, part of the requirement is that Logan City Fire shows up and mans the ARF truck at the airport a half an hour before the flight is supposed to arrive, and then they stay a half an hour after it's landed. And so that is that fee there. It has increased. We went over budget 2023 when I came on at the end of at the beginning of 2024. The 2023 budget didn't cover what they charged us in 2023. That's why we've increased to this 8,000, because those costs have gone up. They sit there longer. I don't know if it's because they're getting raises, but that's how we've accounted for that number.
I just wonder where those expenses are booked. Loriana, I don't know, do you see that? Where there's, on that 625, it shows for 2023 and 2024 actual. Oh, no, wait a minute. I looked at the wrong. 2023, there's money there, sorry. 2024 actual, there's nothing yet. Okay, sorry, I looked at that wrong.
I also have an answer from Janine about the travel lines.
Okay,
That 230 line, the first one, is just for Bob. And then the 621 line is for board members. That's from Janine.
Thanks, Janine.
she must be listening.
She's great. She's always holding my hand.
Bob, I do have a question on your education and training, line 330, from 33,000 to 44,000. What's causing that to go up?
So the ARF training, the truck, the fire truck that we have out there, they go in cycles. So this last summer, they did a recertification, which is a shorter training, less days of training. And then this summer, it will be a certification, which is the full-length training, a week long. So there's more days, it's more thorough. So that's the difference in those two prices. One is a recertification. This summer, it will be a complete certification.
And for all the employees, or just a couple, or how does that work?
That is for Logan City Fire Department staff that come and man the truck. Also, they've invited me to get certified. I don't have to be a firefighter to get certified to drive the truck, and I have one employee who's expressed interest as well. So we'll probably jump in. It shouldn't add anything to sit in on the class. It's already scheduled to be there. So we're gonna get certified as well.
So if you get certified, and maybe this is a dumb question, but does Logan City Fire Department have to be there?
Yeah, Yeah, in order to fulfill the requirement of our airport certification manual, which is basically the guidelines from the FAA, to comply with the 139 certificate, it has to be firefighters that man it.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
So we do have $8,000 that was basically billed over a 12-month period, but we haven't seen any kind of billings from Logan City since December of '23. So,
That's on the Logan Fire standby fees?
yeah, so we put $8,000 in just to make sure, based on kind of that 12 months of billings, that we would have enough. It could be maybe a few thousand higher than what's needed, but kind of depends on what they bill us.
Are we splitting that with Logan and Cass County?
So that fund is split between Logan and Cash. And you'll see on there, if you look, Logan's contributing basically $100,000 a year, and we're transferring $100,000 a year out of our general fund to fund that.
Bob, on the miscellaneous board services and travel at $8,000, what
So,
is that?
so we just had a conference in St. George, excuse me, in Provo. If you wanted to travel to that as a board member, it would cover your travel and your hotels. Earlier in the spring, we had another conference in St. George. So that line is for board members that want to travel and be a part of those airport conferences. Cover your mileage, your hotels. So that's what that 8,000 line is for.
Do have many of the board members taken advantage of these?
John Kerr goes to pretty much everything. Ryan Snow goes to pretty much everything. Anyone on the board is invited to go. What other questions do we have?
I have a question about Utah State. Like, where's the revenue how much do they pay to use our airport?
Yeah, they're running a whole school out there.
So,
And I'm seeing, I look on here, and where is their
Revenue.
so they have a school, and then a lot of the income, the revenue that we'll see from them will be in the land lease agreements that we have with them. So they occupy office space and hangars, and they're just like other tenants that pay their land lease each year. As far as,
You're only bringing in $100,000 a year on all of that?
well,
111?
with the new land lease, we've increased our rate. It has been 22 cents a square foot per year. The new lease agreement is 37 cents per square foot per year. And it's not just the size of the hangar, it's the entire lot that they occupy. Currently, we have about 25% of the leases that have expired. I was told by the board not to sign any new leases until we got a new agreement in place, which we have done. And now we're starting to, as those leases expire, put this new lease agreement into place. That's going to increase that income quite significantly as the clock rolls around and new lease agreements are signed.
But if we look at the cost of having the airport at 139 status, we're not recouping what the university is causing in cost just for the 139 status.
Yeah, so there's a side negotiation, good point, that there's a committee from the board that has made contact with Utah State University specifically to ask for a one-time payment and ongoing payments to cover the expenses for the 139 certificate. That would include this additional manpower request. It would include, hey Mark, it would include certain paint projects.
Well, it includes your fire department and everything else that's tied to
Yeah,
139.
yes. Anything that's related directly to the 139 certification, we're going to be asking Utah State. to pay, to cover that. And they have indicated that they are willing to, they want to keep the 139. It's very important to them, not only for what they're using it for now, but they have more things that they're going to bring to the airport, which will require a 139.
Isn't the tower going to be upgraded to meet that as well?
Yes. We have started a conversation about the control tower. The current tower cannot be used as an air traffic control tower just because of where it is and the size of it. There are grants in place, so the FAA will pay to build the tower, and then the local government pays to man the tower, or vice versa. We build the tower, and then they pay to man the tower. And what St. George has done is that second option, they chose to build the tower and have the FAA man the tower, pay to man the tower. But they also went to the Utah state government and got, I think, $15 million from the state to build that tower. And those are the steps we're trying to take. We're trying to, John Kerr has made contact with the representative who helps St. George with their tower. He feels optimistic that we're going to be able to get those same monies to build a tower and then have the FAA pay to man the tower with their staff.
So talk about landing fees then. If the students, part of Utah State, is that landing fee including what the pilots, student pilots are doing in there? Or is
Well,
that
currently the landing fees are, that's for Utah State, when an airplane comes with football players on it or takes off, that landing fee is applied. But mostly, we aren't collecting landing fees. That is a discussion that the board has ongoing. Currently, it hasn't been the priority. The land lease agreement has been the priority, but I see us changing our direction and thought on discussion on landing fees. Other airports our peer airports around the state and in other states, some have landing fees, some don't. There's been some discussion from the tenants, about what they think about it. Of course, they don't want to pay more, but that's a discussion that will begin probably the first of the year with the board of what we're going to do for landing fees, because there's certainly a lot of traffic. We have about 130,000 operations per year. An operation is a takeoff or a landing. So we're very busy. We're one of the busiest airports in the state of Utah. We're not towered yet. So there is a revenue stream there. But people want to know, what are you going to do with that money? Why are you adding another fee to us, and what are you going to do with that money? Well, that would help with our pavement refurb and painting projects that we need to do. So it would really help if we could move that direction. But that's a discussion that the board is going to have, the Airport Board Authority.
So you started talking about capital improvements, and then we steered you another direction. Can you tell us
Okay.
a little bit about that?
So this next year, we have Taxiway Charlie that will be, half of it will be reconstructed. It's in very bad shape, so bad that we don't snow plow it in the wintertime because it would totally tear it up and do a gravel road. So that's on our project list for next summer. Also, Taxi Lane India extension is on our capital improvement plan. That's going to open up more space for hangars to be built. I'm not very good at reading this form.
I just have a question about the UDOT pavement preservation. It says $222,000 that was not included in the tentative budget. That's not going to come out of our general fund anyway, right? We just paid $100,000, and the rest of that is
Correct.
sustained through the grants and the other
Yeah,
revenue
yeah.
sources that you...
Yeah, the grants cover 90% of this, and then the state would cover 5%, we would cover 5%. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Yeah, the only thing we ask of the county is the 100,000, and I'm not asking for anything more from the county. I wanted to talk about this manpower request so we could put it, administratively, we could put a line on a line item here, so then we can, with our sources of income, can pay them through the county.
Yeah, the airport really is, doesn't cost the city or the county an inordinate amount of money for the service they provide and the value to our county. It's very valuable that we have a good airport. That Mike Jones report, he was pretty critical of
He was.
of us and what we don't have and what we don't do. But much of it we decided didn't really apply to us in the same way as other places.
But we've taken some of those things and prioritized them, like the first thing the board, kind of focused on was the land lease agreement, and we've just completed that. Now we're going to move on to the next thing, and little by little, we're going to get better and more efficient and more self-sustaining, and that's the goal. What other questions do we have?
Any others?
Nope.
Thank you very much.
We're very fortunate to have Bob.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, sir. Good. Your daughter. I think her name is Rebecca.
86.
That's a blessing. Still fun.
Do you want me to just go down the list, or how do you want to do this?
The most efficient way possible.
What's that?
The most efficient way possible.
Well, I'll go down through it and explain it the best I can. I have 2 full-time employees and then myself, so that would make 3. And the amount on that we're requesting is $175,500. Any questions on that one? And then overtime for snow removal and miscellaneous and stuff. We have to bring people in after hours. I got 5,000 for that. Part-time employees, I have 7. I have 3 that work all the time over in the admin building for each floor. I have 1 that does this courthouse. And then I've got another employee who she substitutes, and she also works 2 other days a week, and she's been doing the farmer's market. And then I've got Caitlin up at the CJC that she cleans part-time up there. So, and let's see, seasonal employees, we've just put in 2,000 for that, so that's just kind of, something blows up, we need extra help. Let's see, employee benefits, that's, pretty much straightforward, basically for the insurance and all that stuff, so. Any questions on that section?
Keep going, you're doing good.
We're flying right through. This is pretty straightforward. Education and training, we dropped that to 500 last year. We put it back up to 1,500. That's basically for licensing. I do a little training to keep the license that the county uses. And then also I try to get some training for my custodians and my maintenance people. So that's what that's for. Office supplies, we take care of the equipment in the mailroom. And then office, we use a few office supplies in my office and stuff. So that's basically what that is for, is the equipment in the mailroom, the mail machine, and the envelope machine and stuff like that. Let's see. Buildings and ground, 260. Now, that one's been going up every year due to the cost of parts and everything else. Paint's up, paper's up, towels are up, everything's up. And so that one's went up a little bit, and we're running to get kind of tight again this year, so. But I think we'll keep it at that for now. Hopefully, we won't have to bump that next year. Utilities, that's taken some big bumps. Logan City's hit us for some impact fees. Questar has raised theirs up, I think, 30%. So that's definitely going to be an impact. The way Logan City explained the impact fees, it's the amount of people that's moved into the county. They've had to buy power at a higher rate, and that's why the Logan City utilities just went up.
But impact fees only occur if there is a change.
Right. It varies, but last year it ran about $1,000 a month on the admin building alone.
What changes did we make? What addition, deletion?
What's that?
I mean, it should be, impact fees are, again, on what changes you're doing. What changes did we do to basically incur the impact fee?
The amount of people that moved into Cache County.
Just amount of people.
That's the way he explained it to me, because I kind of,
Philippine cents.
Well, if they're having to pay more, or pay more for electricity, they have to pass that amount on to the customers. That's our.
in other words, Logan City creates power, okay? That power they get at a smaller fee than what they'd have to go out on the market and buy it for. Then they also probably contract for a certain amount of power per year at a certain rate. They go over that, then then this is what he explained to me, that they call that an impact fee, and they charge that at a %. So last year we bumped that up. I got the best calculation. I says, well, how am I going to get my budget if I don't exactly know how much it's going to go up monthly? And he roughly gave me a %. So last year we upped that %. So far this year, I think we're running in the green or the yellow on utilities. We're doing pretty good on it this year, aren't we? So we raised it in 2024.
Actually dependent upon the year.
Yeah, it depends on how many people move in the year and all that good stuff, so. That one's probably been more effective more than anything on here was the utilities. The communication actually went down a little bit mainly because IT has redone things, done things different. And we don't have the big phone bills from them anymore. So that one's went down a little bit. Insurance, we're about the same. Miscellaneous services, about 5,000. That's just for, something comes up that, we didn't foresee. And you never know what's going to happen. We kind of depend on what breaks down and what the weather does and all kinds of stuff like that. So that's what that's for. Any questions on that section? See, we're flying right through. Non-capitalized equipment, that is basically for vacuums, lawnmowers, equipment, stuff like that the custodians and the buildings and grounds use, tools, hand tools, drills, all that good stuff. Basically to do their job, anything that we have to replace or they need to do their job. Let's see. Buildings 720, last year it was 30,000. That's at zero as of now. Improvements, that was basically ARPA money that we used to do the drain line, the storm drain line out here. We're hoping to get some more hint for next year. So we have a list, so that I'm sure you guys have probably seen. So. Yeah.
When it comes to those miscellaneous items, are those typically for supplies kind of for your department to make repairs to different items? I'm wondering if we could maybe move those to,
251 or something?
well, to
260.
to the, like the 480 account.
I don't have a 480 account as of right now, but,
You could set that up though.
Okay.
where If that's what it is,
yeah, I have no problem with that. We can do that. If you feel like that's a better line item, we can definitely do that.
as long as it's kind of, that's what it is, it's more descriptive of what you're spending.
Yeah, it's more for, stuff that they need to do their job. That can be a screwdriver up to a vacuum to a lawnmower, stuff like that. So. Okay, yeah, I have no problem with that. Let's see, where were we? Okay, let's move down to buildings, 720. Let's see, that's where I was, so that's all zero. Capitalized equipment, that's 16,000. Basically, in the past, what that has went for was we've been slowly replacing all the HVAC equipment. We've pretty much got everything on the roof replaced on the building over there for several reasons. One is they're old, they're failing, putting a lot of money back in them. The other reason is the R22 that the EPA didn't like, and the price of that, it's over $1,000 a can now, so. We're trying to get rid of as much of that R22 as possible. Once we get that building to where I'm happy with it, we'll start on this building. But these seem to be running a lot better than the ones did on that building, so that's what that's for. Okay, improvements, that was ARPA money last year. 712 in buildings, that's for incidentals that come up, equipment that we have to change that we didn't plan on. Although we try to do as much preventive maintenance as possible, things naturally come up. So. And then the federal grant money, we pretty much finished those projects. So, pretty cut and dried.
Income generated from the farmer's market and all that, do you ever see any of that?
I don't ever see that. That goes back in the general fund.
So that isn't part of your revenues that you would have here, that you are providing services?
It actually is,
Yeah.
but we don't ever,
Services for, and you're doing all that stuff.
we don't see it. It just goes into they only pay once a year at the end of the year. And they get a pretty darn good deal. It's a pretty good deal for what they get, so. Basically, hopefully it covers the custodial costs and stuff for somebody to come in after they're done and wrap that up. So,
So I have a question, Dennis. The tentative budget that we were given, total department expenses at 377,920,
okay,
puts them at 438. So that's like a $61,000 difference. So we need to add that back into our tentative budget. We're trying to go from that's our ground zero, and anything different we need to add.
okay.
Isn't that what am I looking at that
Well,
correctly?
yeah, this tentative budget reads very, very different than what we're seeing here on this
I'm just
statement that
looking at
was
the
just given to
bottom
us, yeah.
I'm just-
Yeah, I'm not seeing anything that goes up drastically from last year.
That 16,000 in the 740 account was not even included in the tentative budget.
The 16,000 wasn't.
Yeah, it wasn't in the tentative budget.
I wa-
That's the only one I can see specifically. I was just looking at the bottom line.
Let's see.
We're just trying so hard to keep track of.
Oh, no, I totally understand. I totally understand.
Yeah,
We might have combined that in 720, possibly last year. I haven't really compared, but
yeah, I don't know where, I can't tell exactly where all the differences are. It's just a different bottom line number than what we have in the tentative budget, and so we're gonna have to adjust that.
okay.
Probably the biggest change is in the,
Total expense. Let me go down this other list and see if I can find it.
probably in the personnel.
Could be in the personnel, some of
It
it.
is in personnel. That's quite a difference there.
Yeah. And we did add some last year in '24. We took one employee and we took him from part-time, made him full-time. The reason behind that, there are several reasons behind that. Number one, we was paying a lot of money out to contractors that we could do ourselves if we had the manpower. The other reason is we picked up 2 more buildings, and we picked up the new building out at the airport. We've helping the election people out there, take care of that building out there. And then the CJC has also been an addition to it, which was another part-time person, so a lot more maintenance. To give you an idea of why I did that, as far as saving money, is take the painting of this building that my guys did this year, and I think it looks really good. Maybe check it out, but all the wood's been repainted on this courthouse. In 2015, that cost us $14,000. This year, it was our standard employees with a little bit of paint, masking, and stuff like that. So, but they do a lot of stuff like that they couldn't do before. In COVID, we were very short-handed. We couldn't do much at all, so we ended up contracting it out and paid a fortune for it. Just the west balcony alone, contractor, we bid it out to 3 different contractors, and that came up to $9,585, and we redid some wood on the back one, and we repainted all of that. So I think we're really actually making money by spending a little bit of money in the short. So.
That's all the questions
Okay,
I have.
any other questions?
That was the big part of the addition last year. We took Steve and we took him from part-time and made him full-time. So I kind of spaced that one for a minute.
Okay, appreciate it.
But I think we're coming out in the green, so,
We appreciate what you do.
yep, thank you. And thank you. Thank you for your time.
You're on, it's all yours. Dog and pony show like we've never seen before.
I think I was one, or is that 2?
Thank you, thank you.
Thanks.
All right, as efficient as possible, right? The front page is the requests that we have at the health department. I want to break down those categories. Those are categories that we ask from most of the counties, and we'll go through a breakdown of how the other counties that are part of Bear River Health Department, their fund requests shake out, so you can see that. But the general fund typically either comes from your general fund or from a dedicated tax line. Substance abuse treatment and prevention match, we come up with that dollar figure based off of the estimates we get from the state, and those are required. Same with the JRI match. The unique request that we have for Cache County every year is the APC fee, and that is the air quality dollars that the county collects, and then we utilize those for our missions programs. And then new to our request is the opioid settlement, and we work with Wes on his team and trying to determine what that is. Typically, we've been requesting about 85% of what the counties receive. And that right there would be reflective of our best guess of what that is, for a total of $2.4 million. You see there. The second page is just for your knowledge of kind of where the money will go to. And the detail is the requirement either in state rule or state statute for us to be able to do those programs. So you can see on-site wastewater, food, safe drinking water. Our general environmental health goes towards training. Air quality, that's all APC fees. JRI, substance abuse treatment match. And then communicable disease investigation. STI services, that's sexually transmitted infection services. Medical services for the underserved population. TB testing and treatment, that's gone up quite a bit for us. It's going up across the nation, but we've seen a lot of it with us being a refugee resettlement area. We see a little bit more TB, and we have to do that work, and there's not a lot of funding for it. Targeted case management, that's home visitation for mothers and children, immunizations, and then health officer and board expenses, building maintenance and capital projects, and then we have to have a medical director oversight because I'm not a physician. And then we have some costs with accreditation and our accreditation maintenance. And then the other two is the opioid settlement. The last page just kind of goes through those general areas if you care to see how our requests to the other counties shake out. So you can kind of take a look there in those general areas that we talked about on the first page. You can see how those shake out across each of the counties and what they're contributing to the health department.
When that says county revenue, it is specific broke out in right? Like you got it.
Okay, help me understand where you're at.
Well, you're looking at the JRA match, you got Box Elders, you got JRA for cash. Everything's pretty well divided out.
Oh, yeah.
Pretty explanatory.
Yes, those are, correct me if I'm wrong, that's what we're requesting, the revenue right there.
You won't let us move some of it down to Rich County from cash?
You can talk to Bill.
Okay, I will, yeah.
You guys could like do a tractor duel or something and see who wins.
I better not.
Yeah, so the CY 2025 is what we're proposing. The other one was what we did last year. So that's the change.
Well, you mentioned, what one was it again that jumped quite dramatically because of the refugee?
We're seeing a significant increase in and all we have to cover that, do you know what our TB contract is? Yeah, we get a very minimal amount, and it's a very labor-intensive process. So if an individual has active tuberculosis, we have to do direct observed therapy, meaning we have to see them take their antibiotic for a period of time. So we're tracking this individual for months, and we have decreased the cost in the fact that we've invested in an application that they can put on their phone or on a computer where they'll turn on whatever device they have, they'll take their medication, and then it just sends the video to us. So we don't have to coordinate our schedules or anything like that. We just log into the account and we can see that they took the medication. But we have the requirement to make sure that they take that medication, because if they don't continue to take that medication, they can become active again and start spreading the disease in the community. So it's pretty labor intensive. Even the diagnosis process can be pretty labor intensive for our team to.
Okay, let me go back a
Yeah.
little bit. Who designated us as that refugee?
Well, the state designated Cache County as a refugee resettlement area, right outside of Salt Lake.
State did.
Yeah.
But no funding with these for these kind of things.
Not to the health department, to like CRIC and other organizations, there's funding, but this is just the fact that your individuals are coming from an area that don't have strong public health infrastructure, and they'll come and eventually we find out that they develop active TB, or they'll test positive with latent TB, and we have the burden to address the communicable disease. And like I said, we're seeing an increase in TB across the nation. So.
Thank you.
But that's our formal request. The one other thing that the council should know is with the changes that are going on between substance abuse and mental health, this budget is strictly reflective of how we operate now. We anticipate sometime in July, we're going to have to figure out how to shift and make some adjustments to budgets, but we don't know what that looks like. So we went through our budget process strictly operating the way that we operate now. So I'm guessing we'll probably have to have some more conversations with each of the governing bodies to talk about how we need to iron out some of those issues moving forward. Because the fiscal year for both substance abuse and mental health funding from the state starts in July. So, anyhow.
How long does the opioid settlement continue on for?
18 years, right?
It's an 18-year, and we're are we 3 or 4? 4 years in? 3 or 4 years in? I think there's, yeah.
Very little, and then all of a sudden it starts climbing, doesn't it?
No, it actually goes opposite. It goes big, and then it goes down.
But the first was very minimal, I thought.
Yeah, the first
And
2
then
years, it started in '22, and '24, we have had a lot more receipts come in.
Right, and then it jumps up, and then it.
Then and there's still pending litigation, so there could be additional settlement dollars coming in.
So do we as a council then need to think of what we want to do with that other 15%? Like, is it just sitting there for now? Or does it have any designation for it?
So right now, it is restricted. It's a restricted when they audit amount. I can't remember who we met with. I want to say, you might have been in there, Sandy. But right now, we've got that 15%. From what I've received from the sheriff and the fire, they're not necessarily needing those funds or want to use those funds. And so the health department might be the best source of that other 15%, but I think you guys would need to kind of determine how to use those dollars.
And they are restricted by that,
Yeah,
of the agreement.
And I remember that, the fire department and the sheriff's department, the things they would have to do with it would be more costly. They would have said, we don't want to have to deal with the restrictions.
So with the fire, they get enough,
Naloxone.
yeah, from the state.
I seriously look at that stuff as we, as by July when we start mentioning these other things, there may be some relationships there we could really use them for.
Yeah, and some of them could be used to support the early years of the receiving center as well. That is an acceptable use, so keeping them and allowing them to be used for the receiving center. The nice thing of the funding is it can roll from year to year where other funding can't.
Then with those things, you keep those things in mind, we'll keep them in mind too, so that
Yeah.
it isn't just a pot of maize.
Yeah, and if you see a need, like if you see, like you said, the early years of the receiving center, if you can quantify that and bring us a project so that we can really keep that top of mind, that'll be helpful.
Okay.
Because you'll see more of that.
At this point, though, we haven't accounted for that 15% being used. It's just going to remain at the county until you discuss and decide otherwise.
So Wes, I have a question. The general health fund has $1.2 million. Where is that coming from?
So the health, part of your property tax goes into that fund. And so with the increase that you'll be doing, you'll also see an increase in revenues there as well,
Thank you.
potentially. But depending on what you decide.
Other questions? Sure.
All right, thank you.
Jordan?
Oh, I'll be sending y'all an email on the follow-up on the email. It will come out sometime tonight.
Again? And then the chickens?
Okay, Hope, is that the same one you sent me? I have the right one, okay. Thank you.
Does anyone else
Thank you.
more, or do you like it?
No, it's,
Okay.
Or are you good?
So it was old.
Temperature?
Okay,
Thank you.
You have an adapter? No, I have one, I think, in my bag.
Funding comes for a bigger podium.
DPD or PDO? Police officer department.
this is the one. Did you get this email? He sent this email this morning.
Okay, so hopefully all of you had a chance to look at the email I sent out this morning.
Appreciate that.
I did, but I don't know.
There's the budget that we presented earlier is different than the one that I'm talking about today. So they sent something over. We made some corrections on it that I noticed needed to be fixed or duplicative and just things we didn't need anymore. I didn't fill, so.
So the tentative one that we're looking at, we gotta throw that one away?
So the one that they just passed out to you is the correct one.
That's the tentative one?
Yeah, that's the good one.
Okay,
So that's the same one I emailed this morning as well.
Okay.
Okay. So as I said in our email, the previous one was this one's 49,000 less, not significant, but it is less. We did make some good changes, I think. Consolidated some items. And I want to talk a little bit about what I mentioned in the email. Anytime I'm asking for money or putting the budget together, I'm always looking at how to structure this. I received guidance from the IDC how to do that, from the courts, from the council, so I have a lot of input. And so the major thing I'm asking for is some additional funding for expert witnesses and expert evaluations, transcripts, things of that nature.
is that the one, the miscellaneous expenses, the 620?
That is, yes, that's correct. Yep. So that's the major change, other than consolidating and fixing things. In the email I sent you, there in the budget outline, I wanted to make sure we received the $100,000 from Box Elder because of the interlocal agreement. I wanted to make sure the council was aware where that was going and what services it was being used for. So we have the investigator that's paid through that, helps pay for one of the conflict defender. It also pays for our legal research that we have. Just this last year, we started helping out with the CLEs. That's a requirement that
What are CLEs?
that's the continuing legal education. So for us to keep our license as attorneys, we have to do 12 hours a year of and bar dues, those things of that nature. So I think the relationship with Box Elder is really beneficial to Cash. It gives us pays for a lot of different services that we'd have to ask the council for money for. So, is there any specific item on here that you guys have questions about?
The Indigent Defense Fund gives you $341,000. That's a revenue source.
That's the grants, yep,
Grant. Okay, and then we get the $100,000 from Box Elder.
correct.
The rest of it comes out of our general fund.
That's correct.
How much do you receive from Box Elder?
100,000,
$49,000 less.
at least according to this it is. I thought it was 99,000, but on this it says 100. Is that correct? Okay. So,
I have a question on miscellaneous services.
sure.
60,000?
That's the one we're asking for expert witnesses. I think everybody, you can open up Cache Valley Daily every day and there's another case that's not a good case, right? That we don't want.
I'm amazed at these.
Yeah, so.
Blows my mind.
Right, so we probably get 85 to 90% of those cases. Those cases don't have the funds typically, those people don't have the funds to hire private counsel, because a case like that, a private attorney probably charged $40,000, so.
Well, it just seems different that we label it miscellaneous services.
We could change that, I think it should be expert fees.
Yeah, because it,
Professional,
Yeah,
technical.
I think you're right.
It's gotta have a destination.
Yeah,
What's in your professional and technical, you're 310?
Yeah, so when we amended the budget, we went through this yesterday. Lorena helped me out. She's awesome, by the way. We made some good changes. There was a section in there for that. We should have moved that up there. You're correct. So I would agree with that.
What was your question again?
What's in your professional and technical?
So
What's included?
that's where we pay the contractors out of. Everybody's paid out of that except for my fee, my salary, and my legal assistant.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Each
My
one contract.
right. And just to let you know, also my legal assistant and part of her benefits are also paid by grant. So the county doesn't, pay for that. So there's a lot of grants we have. And in the outline.
Those are each of the attorneys that work in your office.
Correct.
So this 60,000 for miscellaneous services are expert. Okay.
This for the, like, when they go to trial and they need a strangulation expert or an expert on gunshots or a mental health evaluation. Those are expensive. So a mental health evaluation can range from $1,500 to $4,000 a pop. I was very conservative in the amount I asked for. I can see it going over that, depending on how the litigation goes with these cases. Or we cannot use it at all. It all depends on how the cases work out and whatnot.
Yeah. Could we have a different?
I agree with you. I think we should call it expert fees and put it up in 310.
I hate the word miscellaneous.
Yeah, just because it looks like that's a catch-all for.
Let's start impounding all the trucks they drive down here to do all that stuff, so.
I tried to get the prosecutors, I'm like, leave them in Salt Lake. Let the Salt Lake people deal with them. Just get the locals. Yeah, we don't need to attract them here, It doesn't look good on, if you're gonna wanna move here and you pull up the Cache Valley Daily and it's, don't go to a park in Logan. Right, so. But I don't foresee adding any individuals. I think we're at a position where I'm happy as long as the caseloads have gone down, because now we have a serious felony defender that distributes that. So a regular public defender doesn't handle rape cases. We have a specific person that handles that. And then a little outline, a little flow chart, I wanted to kind of explain kind of how the office was set up, so you kind of were aware of that. And in there, I put what was grant funded and whatnot. Yeah, so that's what that is. So we have 3 district court judges. And then right below that is the attorneys assigned to those courts. And then we have a conflict attorney. So a conflicts would be like, let's say that Mr. Peterson here represents an individual, but the victim of the other case he also represents, so he can't represent them, right? So he has to get a conflict. That's where that person comes in. And then the serious felony defender handles all the serious felonies in all 3 courts. So they go to court Monday, they're in court all week, because they're in all 3 courts.
And that's paid through a grant, all of that?
Portion of it. So the serious felony offender is $55,000 is paid by a grant.
So anything in excess of that is paid out of?
Paid by the county, that's right. And then our investigator, obviously, I have him here in district court, but he does investigations also for juvenile cases as well. So we've used him in other places. Having an investigator is really important. This is something, we've had investigators in the past. This is a full-time investigator. We send him as many cases as we can. His cases have gone up significantly in trying to investigate everything possible. And having an investigator is important, because I think it helps resolve cases. A lot of times I'll have the investigator go look at a case and say, tell me what's going on with this case. Did you talk to some witnesses? He'll come back and say, it looks like the officer did a good job in the investigation. I don't see any issues. Sometimes he comes back and says, hey, I talked to this person the officers didn't talk to, and they have a different story that was not told to you. So that's why it's important to have the investigator. We get a different side of the story. There's many cases we've gotten dismissed or pled out because of the investigator. And then below here is we have drug court and mental health court. A lot of you have actually gone to those courts. Those are handled by Mr. Demler. And then involuntary commitments, that's something a lot of people don't know that we handle. Excuse me, I'm getting hoarse. What that is let's say that you have a family member that has mental health issues and you want them to go to the state hospital. So you have to the state files a petition to have them taken to the state hospital. And so that's handled by us as well in defending those. The attorney's there to make sure that you can't just throw somebody in the state hospital without due process, make sure that the petition is correct and the judge looks at the case. Then in juvenile court, I think we've made some good progress there. I think juvenile court in most jurisdictions is probably the last to be spent on, but I disagree. I think it's a very important area. Judge Galloway is the judge here for that. We also have Judge Morgan, who comes from Box Elder occasionally. Juvenile court's broken up into two areas. We have the delinquency side, so that's juveniles, right? That go spray paint, cut down trees, all the things that they get in trouble for. We have two attorneys that cover that, Mr. Demler, who's on a grant for that, and then Mr. Perry. And then the other side of juvenile court that they also handle is child welfare cases. Those are where, I think you guys are seeing in the news, there's been a lot of news about DCFS lately and whatnot. This is where this is handled. And we have 3 attorneys there. Mr. Perry, his other side of his job is to handle that. We have Mr. Saxton, and then you see that 15% there? What that is we have a grant that covers 15% of their salary in that court. So we have to bill that every quarter. So whatever we spend on that, we send the IDC, the Indigent Defense Commission, will pay us for 15% of whatever those costs were. And then here below is this last year, we got a child welfare social worker. And that's also, we share that with Box Elder, and that's also covered by a grant of $80,000. So the child welfare social worker, I think you guys have seen, you guys gave us some ARPA funds to help with the social worker. She's been helping get apartments, paying for beds and things like that with the ARPA money. So that's been very helpful. That's kind of what she does, is helps, in these types of cases, a lot of times the court will give them a service plan and say, hey, you need to do this and XYZ to get your kids back. And the social worker helps them do that, get into treatment, clean up their house, get a job, get a driver's license. All those things is what the social worker does in those courts. I'm trying to get grants to have a social worker in district court. I think that would be very helpful. But that's kind of the overview of the whole department of what we spend. That's where all this money goes, is here. But,
Sorry, you may have said how many employees are included in your full-time?
so we have one, besides me.
Okay.
And her name is Kenzie Taylor. She does all the grants, okay? And she's my legal assistant. She helps all the other public defenders as well.
And then the overtime, is she eligible for overtime then?
She's eligible for overtime. We talked about fixing this yesterday, right? This is the 60, we don't think should be that much. I think 1,000 should be there just in case. 6,500 is too much, so we're gonna fix that further, right? Okay.
So I have a question on
Yeah.
the full-time employees line.
Mm-hmm.
That's 20% higher than the 2024 budget. Does that include raises? Like, we're trying to keep all the raises separated so that we can look at those differently than the 2024
So that was
budget.
my raise and my legal assistant's raise.
Okay, so that's gonna be different in 2025 than 2024?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah, and that doesn't have anything to do with the contractors.
okay.
So in our department, there's 2 employees for the county, myself and the legal assistant, which is also grant funded as well.
I just want to make sure I understand, like we're trying to figure out the budget. Okay.
Any other questions?
Questions?
And on a separate note, you have individuals from the Indigent Defense Fund coming here tomorrow
Yes,
at
so
1:30?
yes, they're coming tomorrow. They're going to kind of give us they kind of do an audit of our system and tell us what we do well. I just did box elders this morning, so they'll come tell us what we do well, some things I got to work on and whatnot, so.
You're in the chambers, in the council chambers? Okay.
Yep. It only takes an hour. They were there, box elder, for an hour, right on the dot, so.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, guys. Thank you for all your support. I know you have a lot of difficult decisions to make, and I wouldn't want to be in your shoes.
You got something against my shoes?
Thanks, Mike. Thank you.
Executive.
All right.
Thank you.
I'm hoping this pops up automatically. Awesome. My computer broke it? Oh, yeah. No, that's fine.
It's frozen, and I need to restart it, but that would take that whole screen, so.
I'll be quick. Yeah, no, that's fine. Council members, thank you so much. I've got a slideshow that I've put together that I will not cover every slide. I've done that, and then I've sent it to you this afternoon, more as a reference for you to have with code sections and the actual statutory responsibilities of the county executive. What's not included in this presentation yet is all of the specific responsibilities and duties put upon the county executive through county ordinance. Though over the last couple of years, the attorney's office and me have been working on basically a roles document for the council and the executive as stated in statute and county ordinance. Really, I started there just because in order to connect a budget to what you do, you need to know what you're expected to do. And so at any time, you can feel free to ask questions, but I'm hoping that you can use what I sent you today. It's the exact same presentation. So state statute has many various code sections about the county executive in our form of government, and they really are all there in 1753, and then with the following sections. General powers, duties, and functions of the chief executive. I only highlighted one here because that's subsection 1, and then we'll go on to subsection 2. He is the elected county executive, the chief executive officer of the county, exercise all the executive powers, executive duties, perform all executive functions. And then section 302 lists these as several of the responsibilities, which I think for the most part you're going to be familiar with all of these. Appoint, suspending, and removing directors, all per county ordinance, though I know we've passed some things in the last couple of years specific to that duty. Exercise administrative auditing control over all funds and assets, supervise, direct, centralized budgeting, accounting, personnel management, purchasing, and other service functions. Conduct planning studies and make recommendations to the council related to a bunch of things. Maintain a continuing review of expenditures and of effectiveness of departmental budgetary controls. Develop systems and procedures for planning, programming, budgeting, accounting for all activities of the county. Quite frankly, we haven't done a lot of that. Most of what my duties have consisted of over the last coming up on 3 years in March, would be more oversight of departments that we have specific responsibility for. Meeting with those department heads, working on with them to understand their issues, help them improve, help them with questions, things like that.
It's been your responsibility?
For the most part, yeah. And then I have direct relationships and responsibility over several department heads. Conduct planning studies and making recommendations to the council. Review, negotiate, approve, execute contracts. You're all familiar with these. Power of the veto on that first one. Perform all other functions and duties required of the executive by state law, county ordinance, etc. Sign county deeds. And then one that the council has as well, to examine and audit the accounts of all officers. Section 304, I found this one, I thought it was interesting. If you ever need someone here at our meetings, just obviously the sheriff would be happy to send somebody, but that's specifically in statute for some reason. This one specifically in Section 309 speaks to the fact that the county executive is the one responsible for all of our assets in the county. And I thought this was so interesting. It really doesn't affect anything we're doing specifically right now, other than perhaps in the future working on helping us to maximize the use of our admin building in the next few years. But it just was interesting to me. Adopts plans and specifications for the alteration, construction, or repair of any public building or other public structure. And then talks about basically that no one can come in and make plans and force a department head to like make alterations that cost more than what he proposed. It's just a really kind of interesting, very overly specific statute.
It still has to be funded.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I think,
I'll let you know.
no, I think my point would be if the council came in and said, no, you must spend more than that, you must change your plans, they literally can't do that. It's the executive that's in charge of the assets. And so I don't know why they put that in there. Like a lot of statute, I wonder if there was one specific instance that happened in the past or something that made them put that in there. It is just interesting. 309 in 1753. 106, may generally direct and supervise all elected county officers and employees to ensure compliance with general county administrative ordinances, rules, or policies.
Now, when are we going to get to the budget?
Great. I am hearing you to say, put the foot on the gas.
When are we going to get to the budget?
Well, I think you'll find, okay, so there you go. So too much to talk about. We have many duties and responsibilities. And we do seek to maximize our efforts with the limited resources we're given. It's the same challenge every department faces. There's a summary of all of our different responsibilities. And then here is the overview of the budget. This was put in the same categories as the council on the 3-digit line item this year, so it doesn't really match up. This will make more sense in this format next year. If you go to page 71 in your budget book, and I know that those numbers foot to the right amounts, and I'm hoping that what you were given today also is the same, but looking at page 71, we've got professional services travel, 6,000. Here's the summary, council members. We are not proposing any new expenses at all. And this is on top of, this is as of, nothing new as of the proposed tentative budget, which includes February adjustments that were made then as well. There is literally 2 changes in our budget from last year's final approved budget. One is Wes, in his very astute thinking that he was helping us fulfill our needs, added $1,000 in overtime on that line. We literally don't need that. So that is an amendment we can make for sure, and that we would support, is taking out that $1,000 for overtime. And then there was $5,000 that was listed last year for something called TextMyGov. That has been taken out of the executive's budget and put it in the non-departmental for the whole county. And that's something we're looking at as to whether we even really need that ongoing. So those are the only 2 changes that you will notice in our budget from last year. The other changes that you might see would include what I call natural changes. The changes related to salaries, or any changes related to other adjustments made by our central services, like insurance, or even the tax administration amount if that changed. But we aren't proposing any changes. I included in this presentation that we've worked hard, even when we travel, to find lodging options that reduce costs, just like every other county department head should be doing. And we're choosing very carefully which trainings or conferences we go to. We're just seeking to fulfill our statutory duties. And I included a few slides in looking ahead. Seasonal employees line, I know that was reduced. We've used hired interns in the past. The only difference is a slight difference that when we have volunteers come, we seem to not get as high of a quality of students that are able to come help us. But I'm talking in the future. I'm not even talking right now. I'm just saying looking ahead in future budgets perhaps. Communicating with our citizens, so a communications plan. And then our professional services. We have some statutory duties related to legal services and the oversight that we're supposed to have. Studies, investigations, and as we talked about last year with auditing. And right now, I think we have $4,000 in the professional services line. If we need more in the coming budget year, we'll come to you. We'll say the studies we're interested in doing. But in future budgets, I'd like to explore with the council the fact that it's a statutory requirement that we do those things. And in order to have the ability to do that, there should be some amount put in a budget. It doesn't mean it would be used every year, but some amount. And we, of course, would commit, even though budgets are made allocated and appropriated at the department level, we would commit to communicate with you and talk about the services or the projects we would want to do before spending that money in the future. But all of that's kind of, how would you say, academic, because that's just trying to give you a heads up on potential future needs. So, what questions do you have, council members, about?
I have a question for Wes and Loriana, maybe, and Brittany. What you gave us earlier, Dirk, showed
Yes.
that you took away the proposed merit and market.
Yes.
This has it in it. So which one is the document that we're going to be working on? The working tentative budget that we have does not include salary increases.
So there's two columns on your report. If you go to page 5.
The report we got today?
Well, in your binder that Mike put together. So I would just point out that some of what you're seeing is the requested column. The department heads are a lot of them are showing you what was in their request overall.
But that hasn't been added into our tentative budget. Our working document
No.
does not, okay.
I
'Cause
wondered-
had that question for Mike McGinnis, and I
Yeah.
should have asked it. Like, we want to be able to make sure that we know what we're working from.
So wait, what is
So
this?
when we adopted the tentative budget, that was mirroring what we had received in requests at that point in time. I know there's been some changes.
But any of those changes would need to be made in amendments.
Yeah, I haven't.
I think that's what you're getting at.
changed the budget.
Okay. Nothing has been put.
But you said there's been some changes.
Yeah, I've had department heads get with the analysts, even in the last week, and make some changes. And so, you know, the difficulty I'm running into is we've not had any cutoff dates. I can tell them, hey, you're too late,
Yeah.
but I haven't felt like I can do that. You know,
So
we
that's
need
why
to
it
set
doesn't
kind of a
register
drop dead
71.
date and say, hey guys,
Well,
you need to not make the request.
I think that's what
And I think
Sandy was
next year,
saying,
when
yes.
we adopt our calendar, we very specifically need to have a drop dead date. So I can
To
say,
me, when we get the tentative budget, as soon as that's accepted, that's it.
Yeah, I don't know.
any changes,
Market and merit?
what's that?
So this includes market and
Yes, it
merit?
does, but the tentative
Yeah, I
budget
think,
does not.
I think in that has market and merit in it.
And because
Again,
page 5 does, but page 71 does not.
does
say?
not. That's the first decrease, if that's on there.
Well, if you look at the tentative budget, it doesn't include
So
it.
which one are we working out of?
The tentative,
Should
yeah.
not have it.
Page 5, the final column, that's the one we're looking, that's the one.
Yeah.
we're looking
Tentative. Okay.
Yeah.
391.
at. Yeah, that's our drop dead number.
Okay,
So-
Mark Wessner, the increase, he's put it in at 4,500.
Yeah, that's what they requested.
And just to clarify,
That's not what's in our budget.
it sounds to me, my understanding of the whole process is that the tentative budget now is a line that you draw in the sand and say, anything that would get added to that would be by vote of the council, amendment by amendment. So Mike's things that he was talking about, hey, we've changed some things, I'm thinking, I almost spoke up and said, does the council have those amendments yet? Because that's what you guys need to consider over the next month. And I know these budget presentations we give now even have spanned enough months that we maybe got the tentative budget in the middle of it, so even some of the first ones might look a little different. But the idea is the tentative budget is the line in the sand. And the final adopted budget, now that doesn't mean that department heads can say, hey, Wes, will you please make this amendment so that the council can consider it? And I imagine I'm obviously not speaking for you, but let's just pretend that everything Mike presented today seemed reasonable and finance is saying those were reasonable technical changes even. Well, those all need to be adopted by amendment in order to pass his final adopted budget.
One of the changes I just want to point out, that 60,000, we had specifically in professional services. He met where I met yesterday. And so I haven't been updated that he made those changes. So I'm going to have to go through the operating account specifically and try to quantify that.
My understanding, we've made these requests and we've put them on like an amendment list. We haven't made any formal changes to the tentative budget.
Okay, that's what I
But
want.
we're still working off of this.
The tentative budget column, I think, is the super official.
In your packets, we have the budget resolution. That's the resolution. What's attached to it is what you guys have in your binders. What we did last year, and I think we've done that in years prior to that, is finance has put together, I think last year we did 2 rounds of amendments, where finance put together a list of amendments that look just like a budget opening. And they amended the current year's budget, and the process was the same, looks just like a budget opening.
And I think you've been keeping that,
Yeah, I
correct?
have about 40
Okay.
right now.
That's when we would decide
And how
market and
soon
merit.
can we, finalize those? Are we,
Five, I'm trying to finalize the numbers on, and then I would be ready to share that.
okay, so we should probably have an appropriations meeting.
That would be, I think that would be ideal, is to have those reviewed by the Appropriations Committee, and then maybe present those, the next council meeting is pretty booked with the Truth and Taxation hearing, but you guys can talk about budget in that meeting. So actually, that can be an item during that Truth and Taxation hearing portion of the meeting, and you guys can consider those amendments. So if those are ready to go by November 12th, then you guys can consider the first round of amendments.
But we need to have an appropriations meeting before then,
Yes.
correct? So that first part of November, we need to maybe plan something.
Probably that would, we'll talk. It'll be in the next week or 2.
My understanding too is we're going to be addressing capital in the next appropriation meeting. So we will have some updated capital information for you. They've started to determine what year they want funding in. So instead of just having just straight request, they're trying to put that 5-year plan together to see how that would be requested and funded.
Perfect. And when we met with the executive today, we asked them to give us that critical list. So maybe you guys work together, and give us, these are the absolute drop dead capital expenditures that we have to consider, and what ones we don't need to look at this year, so that we can make that determination as well.
And to kind of be in line with what Nolan requested, we're having them put specifically how they prioritize those requests.
Perfect.
And from our meeting today, I'm wanting to at least ask the department heads to be a little more specific about exactly what are the consequences if this doesn't happen this year, that kind of thing. Which one of these we use the word today in our meeting, critical. What's actually critical? So to save an email, I think the only amendment we would think we need at this time is to take $1,000 out of that overtime line, because we don't need it. We won't use it.
Well, and then there was one other one, wasn't there, the 5,000?
I think they already did that.
Did they?
Yeah.
You said it went to non-departmental?
Yeah, that's,
So I do
Brittany.
think there were a couple items we moved to non-departmental. Is that?
Well, there's only one on it. It's called substance abuse prevention.
Yeah.
whatever has been done, it didn't show up here.
So Dirk, why do we have these other ones with your budget?
You mean the reports today?
Yeah, because we have the executive budget, but then we have like
Just to be really frank,
five.
I wasn't even notified that you would be given different reports than what I was working from. So I don't know.
Is basically assign a office or individual who kind of oversees that budget, and there's like half a dozen budgets.
Oh, the non-departmentals.
The executive.
Sorry, yes. This has been going on for like 2 or 3 years now, starting with Phil. Over the last 3 years, we've tried to consolidate, maybe not consolidate, figure out exactly the clearest way to express some of these departments that weren't departments. I think our favorite was the beekeeping one.
The inspection.
That was, yeah. And so if you have any questions about that, we'd be happy to answer them. Brittany actually might be the better
It's got lumped
expert on that.
underneath the executive.
Yeah, because honestly, there's no one else in the county that kind of takes care of these. And a lot of these are things that just happen automatically every year, and we have to budget, or we're required to do them. We're happy to look at those harder or further, or make sure, as our honorable chair just mentioned, just to even make sure that iWorks or the TextMyGov was actually moved into non-departmental. It's definitely taken out of our budget, but.
This is something that's needed, and actually, it was taken out it was in the 2023 budget. We took it out in
So-
2024. It was not included in your 2024
Yeah,
budget.
and I'm not trying to shed further confusion, but in working together with finance over the last few weeks, I asked for a budget detail report on our budget, and what I got from finance looked much more updated with descriptions and things. Page 71 might have been printed at a certain time, but there are lines on page 71 that are even empty, and they don't show up on this other detailed one. For instance,
Communications line, it's in.
yes, thank you. So Sandy and I were footing the two, and with Wes's help and Brittany, we realized that the bottom line totals are exactly the same, but what we're spending it on, everyone at this table actually knows. Like, it's, our budget is so simple that it really is down to the dollar or whatever. For instance, on page 71, it lists under Communications, iWorks, TextMyGov for $31.50. Cost is $5,000 historically, when in actuality, that's not even on the budget detail I was given 2 or 3 weeks ago that I shared with Sandy and Dave today.
It wasn't in your budget last year, because
Yeah.
one of the things I said that
So-
doesn't make sense.
Between now the 3 budget detail reports we have, one that I was given by finance 3 weeks ago, the budget book, the budget page 71, and then the ones handed out today, our bottom line total should be the same. And finance has confirmed that with us. So I honestly think that the one I handed out to Dave and Sandy today is probably the most updated, because I'm assuming what finance has done is they went in and updated the descriptions on what's on page 71 to be more accurate. That's my guess.
It almost looks like, page 71, the line that has the iWorks, it almost looks like it should be down the line for the cell phone stipends. So I wonder if we thought that we fixed it, so.
Right.
Yeah, 'cause
And
the
our
budget-
cell phone stipends we confirmed were 2,900, and that's 2 at 85 and 2 at 35.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So. And I just have to hand it to Wes and his office. They've worked so hard since the day he got here to both understand our budget countywide and how to figure out how to share the information with you on making the big decisions this year. And so I would say actually the most important tool that you have was the last spreadsheet he shared with you in last week's, I think it was last week or 2 weeks ago, the budget presentation, where it had choices for you to make. What that means, the bottom line was, how much does that mean of our general fund balance are we gonna have to use? And so as you make those decisions, that's kind of a story that you get to decide, is using that spreadsheet to put in scenarios and figure out what you can and can't, how far you can and can't go at funding certain things. So,
Okay,
yeah, thank you so much.
thanks, Rick.
Yeah, absolutely.